I haven't hosted on Teams before. There we go. Lovely.
And then it will, I think it automatically records.
Perfect. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining from. Just wait a minute and then we can crack on with the show. Brilliant. Tibby, are you able to admit people whilst I get started? Excellent. Brilliant. Well, hello again, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us for this webinar on building resilience in a changing climate with a focus on livestock and the role that they can play in helping build a healthy farm. So just a quick bit of housekeeping to begin with. This session is being recorded and will be shared afterwards. If you're welcome to turn your cameras on if you'd like to say hello. And if you can stay on mute throughout and add questions into the Q&A box as you go, we'll make sure we cover them at the end and hopefully open it up for a bit of discussion if we've got time. So this is the second webinar in the series, which is run with the folks at Regen WA, David and Tibby, based in Perth, Australia, and Vet Salis as well with Elise in New Zealand. And it's been really fascinating so far hearing both how diverse farming systems are globally, but also the overwhelming amount that farmers across the world all have in common. And today you'll be hearing from Lorna and Duncan Hum, based in New Zealand. We have Lorna Shaw in Scotland and Simon and Rebecca in Western Australia. So a little bit of a logistical challenge of the time zones, but a big thank you to all the speakers and all of the attendees who are joining at the bookend of their days. So thank you very much. And I would also like to extend an acknowledgement to the traditional custodians of the lands and waters across Australia and in New Zealand too. So I'd love to know where you're joining from. Feel free to drop it in the chat. And if you know the traditional place name, you can also add that in too. Quick intro from us. I'm May Wheeler. I'm here for Sustainable Food Trust, and I spend most of my time working on the Global Farm Metric project. And what we do there is help to develop and test a common framework for sustainability that measures both the environmental, the social, and the economic impacts of farms across the world. And I can show you what that looks like just very quickly. Hopefully you can see my screen okay. So this is the Global Farm Metric wheel, and it just shows the key parts of the farming system, from governance, how decisions are made, what values and priorities drive management, to the natural systems on the farm, soil, water, climate, biodiversity, the agricultural systems, land use, crops, and of course livestock, which play a really key role, as well as the social side with farmers, the agricultural supplies that go into the system, community economics, and finally context that ring around the outside, things like the weather, the geography, the policies, the things that farmers can't control, but all inform the overall sustainability and resilience of the farming system. So today we're just looking at livestock, their health, their welfare, the products, productivity, and looking at the kind of other elements that livestock interact with on the farm. And of course, at the Sustainable Food Trust, the Global Farm Metric isn't all we do. We do lots of work around true cost accounting, looking at the hidden costs behind unsustainable food production, local food systems, local abattoirs, work around education with the Harmony Project, which is about embedding nature into education. And we've also recently launched Beacon Farms Network, which is bringing children, but also other farmers and the wider public onto farms for a seeing is believing experience. And many, many more things, but I will pass over to Tibby and the folks at Regen WA just to say hello.
Thanks, May, and hello everyone, whether it's good morning, good evening, or good afternoon. So my name is Tibby and I'm the program manager at Regen WA. So we're a network of like-minded farmers, industry stakeholders and consumers all interested in regenerative agriculture. Our aim is to support evidence-based practices that restore natural capital on farms. And this is a benefit to both farmers and the environment. And so our vision is to create an inherently productive farming landscape that we're proud to pass on to the next generation. And so our bread and butter is running projects, and our approach is to empower, connect, enable, and support. And we do this through our projects, and it might look like supporting local demonstration sites, curating case studies, running field days and workshops on farms, and also creating other sort of written material and information that helps to support farmers and other stakeholders understand and implement regen ag. So yeah, lots going on over here, and I just want to say thank you for having us, and I look forward to hearing the farmers' stories.
Thank you. Brilliant. And we have Elise as well with Vet Salis. So I'll hand you over and then we can crack on with hearing from our farmers.
That is working. Yes, hi. I am joining from New Zealand, but Vet Salis is an international group. We connect international food processors with local vet expertise to improve animal health, welfare, and sustainability outcomes across the global food chain. As an independent advisory network, we engage in collaborative projects promoting a One Health approach to address animal health, public health, and environmental challenges. Leveraging our expertise in local agricultural systems, we provide quality services including vet consultancy, research and development, and training for veterinary and animal health organisations. And it's my pleasure to introduce Lorna and Duncan Hum, who farm with their daughter Isla in the South Island of New Zealand. Lorna is a full-time vet and helps Duncan on the farm, which he runs alongside work promoting regenerative agriculture on platforms like Quorum Sense and New Zealand Farming Socials. And over to the two of you. Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Lorna, this is Duncan, and we'll come back to us, but we've prepared a couple of slides that we can have up while we're talking. So I will just start making that happen now. Where's the share screen?
Hopefully it'll work seamlessly.
Right. Over to you.
Righty-ho. So we are based at Mount Somers in mid-Canterbury, which is in the South Island, about 360 metres above sea level, so right tucked in against the mountains, but we are actually perfectly flat, which is a bit odd, but we absolutely love the place. Our family have been here for 60 years this year, so been here for a while. My grandparents found this place and bought it for us, and we are just in the middle of farm succession at the moment, so trying to get ready for the next generation and stay in business while we do it. So deer sort of was my passion from early on in my probably teen years, and sort of I drifted away towards arable farming and machinery a bit for a while there, but then sort of drifted back to it. And yeah, we've sort of, once Lorna come on the scene, I think at one of our first dates was actually I took her for a drive around the farm, and that's where it sort of the passion for taking on the farm to the next generation was sort of the seed was sown, so to speak. So yeah, tracking for actually just area wise, so our farm is about 145 hectares. At the moment, we've got about 70 or 80 of that leased out, and so we farm about 50 hectares. And then so we wear our many hats, juggling it to fit all in. So yeah, so with Lorna as a vet, me farming, and then I also been pretty heavily involved with the Quorum Sense network from its foundation right to where it is today. And then I also operations manager for a fertilizer company that specializes in sort of regenerative biological systems. So we import and supply fertilizer and do custom blends and soil testing, depending on what our clients, where they fit in for their context as well. So we've got the whole spectrum from orchards to arable, dairy, all sorts. Even got a hop garden too now. So we sort of have a pretty wide range of customers with a wide range of needs. So that's sort of like really has been a big part of my journey personally, is learning from my boss Don Hart, who was a pretty early adopter on that biological farming systems and getting the fertilizer and stuff to fit into before regenerative was sort of even a term in New Zealand. So as things have sort of evolved, our farming system has sort of evolved with it, starting right back with just thinking that, or starting with building the house or the foundation for a healthy farming system. So getting our soils balanced up right with the Kinsey-Albrecht system. And then we've sort of evolved from there, I guess, as we kind of learned as much, we've still got a lot to learn, but we've sort of gone as far as we could with that, and then sort of started getting into diverse pasture species, deer genetics, the whole picture really, and animal health comes as a big part of that. Sort of when I first come home, deer wasn't really my father's passion at all. It was sort of just like just a bit of diversity to the income more than anything, and a bit of an afterthought. So we sort of took what he'd sort of started off with my pestering as a teenager, that we should definitely get into some deer. And then as we've grown, we sort of identified what was sort of limiting us in terms of genetics, animal health, and sort of the whole pictures sort of come together and just get that momentum and pendulum swinging for our systems. So in terms of what we farm, so we've got red deer. We used to sort of specialize primarily in English type red deer, but we've sort of since, I guess, gone as far as we could with genetics in that line. And then now we've sort of really opened up our minds to high growth rate animals, just to really push our limits of what we can achieve in terms of productivity. So sort of a big belief we have is, just because we're sort of going down a regen path, that doesn't mean we should sacrifice any productivity. Like, to my mind, a healthy functioning ecosystem should mean healthier animals and good productivity. So I don't think for a second that we should be reducing our productivity to go regenerative. It's more, if the system's working well, everything should start going at a faster pace. And the key measurement for that is healthy, productive animals, and that's where the road leads to for us, really. So don't think we're anywhere near the limit of what we can achieve, but we're definitely identifying what the next things are that we have to address to get to that next level. And we probably, when we were first starting off, we never really had any idea that we could achieve where we are now. So if we went back 10 years and sort of said the sort of productivity that we're getting out of animals, there would be no way we would have believed it. But then just with that persistence and just constant improvement year on year, we've got to where we are. And I still think we've got a lot of places to go. in terms of our venison, we're geared mostly towards breeding and finishing venison animals. So we run all our own hinds, and then we finish all their progeny every year. And then we also have a small velvet component to our business, which we've cut back a wee bit the last couple of years because the prices aren't too flash on that side, and it's not really our first passion. So venison and breeding genetics are our passion. So yeah, we sort of lean that way. As far as marketing our product goes, we work really closely with probably one of the smallest meat companies in New Zealand, a company called Mountain River Processors, and our venison products go all over the world, from Scandinavia, Europe, America, China, and then a little bit into the domestic market here in New Zealand. But probably the one we're most proud of is, and probably where we're getting the most cut through and market, is with Force of Nature Meats in the USA, because they're really focused on regenerative systems, and they're really, really interested in, and their customers are interested in venison grown regeneratively. So we're just actually in our second year with the Savory EOV system, which basically savory verification, and yeah, and the hope that we can get more. We're one of the pilot farms for that, and so we're hoping to show all the other farmers that supply this company that if we introduce regenerative systems, there'll be a good market for it. And then yeah, I think Force of Nature, they're already taking all we can supply them, but we're just putting a bit more data behind, showing how regenerative all our farmers are, and if we can get a critical mass of farmers, they can really start pushing that more to consumers that share our values in the States. So yeah, it's a bit of a overview. I guess one of the big things we're really working on is, because we're so far, well, we are quite inland, quite high altitude. The weather can be, as much as it is, like, we think it's one of the best places in New Zealand to farm here at Mount Somers. Also has its, not without its challenges, that we can go from wet, sopping wet, to extremely dry in about 2 weeks. So probably a big part of our focus is building our farming system to cope with whatever the weather decides to throw at us. And we've got, yeah, luckily all our weather records we've built over our generations here, and then also we've still got all the records from the previous families that were farming this land as well. So we've got some pretty good data and a lot of experience in dealing with what the weather throws at us. So whether that's windstorms, snowstorms, floods, drought, you name it, we get it all, really. So it's been quite a fun journey learning as we've started introducing different crops and plants to our system, in terms of a lot of annual crops that we grow for like winter feed or silage, or just as crops to carry through into shoulders of seasons. Yeah, always sort of trying to, we never plant the same mix twice. We're always just put something in, grow it, and see what works and what doesn't, and then adapt to whatever's coming at us, and then go again. And then, so yeah, every mix we do, everything we try is always something different, or whether that's using a different tool as we're growing the crops, so different inputs, cutting out inputs, putting stuff in. It's really just one big R&D experiment, and it's a bit chaotic and a bit crazy, but it's just bloody good fun at the end of the day. And it's just, I don't know, I actually find talking to more conventional farmers just boring as batshit, really, because it's just like the conventional side's just routine and yeah, pretty boring. So got to keep it interesting, which helps us stay on our toes. And especially if you've got a paddock of sunflowers or something like that, like this photo here, if you're having a bad day, you just can't really ride past a paddock of sunflowers and be angry once you've ridden past it. It's good way to level you and centre yourself again. So yeah, it keeps it interesting. This slide here is one of the very earliest field days we had actually with Quorum Sense, before we even had a name for a group or whatever we were for a group of farmers. The farmer on the left was an organic farmer. Guy second left is Charles Murfield, who's a professor at Lincoln University, and probably one of my biggest people I hold in the highest regard, Simon Osborne, who's an arable farmer at Leaston. This is on his farm. And then the late Professor Steve Ratton beside him there. And I guess this is where light bulbs really started going off for me, was standing in a paddock with a bunch of professors and academics and farmers all talking the same thing and all really excited about these systems. And just the transfer of information was huge.
Thank you. Sorry, if you're able to wrap up, that'd be great. Sorry, I hate cutting people off. That was lovely though. Thank you.
I'll jump in and wrap up. As a vet working with regenerative farming systems, it's been really fascinating, not just on our own journey, but it's really trained me to have such a more open mindset, a curiosity mindset for helping farmers in their journey, making sure that monitoring is a massive part of a vet's input into this. Healthy animals are clearly the desired output and the beneficial impacts that animals thriving on diversity can add to a system. So there's been a lot of trials, a lot of recording, a lot of monitoring, and the sort of top level summary of the beneficial outcomes have been massively in the parasite management world, trace elements, and just rumen function. And so I'm working with regenerative dairy farms, regenerative sheep and beef and deer farms, and it's been a fantastic opportunity just to throw open the mindset and relearn what good can look like. So it's been really rewarding as a farmer and a vet, learning more about this too. But Duncan talks lots, so I reckon we're out of time here.
We also have some very robust debates just within our own business too, which makes it interesting.
Yes.
Excellent. Lorna, Duncan, thank you so much. That was really, really fantastic. Any questions, do pop them in the chat or the Q&A and we'll come back to them at the end and we can have a group discussion. Lorna, I will hand over to you.
Thanks, May.
And I'll do better at time checking. I'm sorry to have interrupted there. I could have kept listening.
Okay, I can guarantee I'll need time checked. Perfect. Can everyone see my slides okay?
Yeah, they look great.
Okay, perfect. Oh, I've lost half my... Too many screens. There we go. Minimize that. Perfect. Thank you very much for inviting me along today. It's really nice to see different countries sharing experiences, and I'm sure there's quite a lot to learn, so I'm quite excited about being part of this. So I'm not going to spend too much time on intros because I've only got 10 minutes, and anybody that knows me well knows that I can talk for way longer than that, and there's a lot to talk about as well. So just a really quick introduction about who I am in as brief as possible. I work as a senior beef and sheep nutritionist with SEC Consulting, which are an independent consultancy based in Scotland. I am based out of their Perth consulting office, so in central Scotland, but I support clients across the entirety of Scotland, including the Highlands and Islands. Work with a really diverse range of farmers, from really extensive, more kind of regenerative type systems right to intensive systems. But one thing we do have in common is that sustainability, profitability and resilience in these systems is paramount. And that's one of the kind of core values in trying to make the most of that system itself. Especially as a nutritionist, for me, an animal needs to be well fed and healthy to be productive. So that's the core aim of whatever we do. My key roles, this is definitely a very much of a summary. I offer independent nutritional and system support for beef and sheep clients. I work solely beef and sheep. We have a nutritionist in the company working with dairy, and we've also got pig poultry expertise, as well as a vast array of knowledge across, and we'll kind of try and summarize that as I go. I also support the wider consulting network with nutritional queries and rationing. We've got about 20 consultants that are trained on rationing, so I'm the key support for them, and also work with our research and SRUC owned farms for nutritional support there. So quite a wide array of roles. Outside work, I'm also from a family farm in the Scottish Borders, which is in a three-way partnership between my father, my brother, and my uncle. So we run a mixed beef, sheep, and arable unit down there, produce breeding and finishing stock. We're running about 90 head of beef cattle that are full suckle to finish. We have about 600 sheep, which we are expanding at the moment, trying to close up the flock as much as possible to reduce disease challenge. And we also run an arable enterprise where we grow seed barley, as well as some swedes or turnips, similar. And we also have some potatoes that are contracted in. For us, it's really important that this is rotated and that this works as an integration. So all eligible land is within an 8-year rotation, which fully integrates the livestock and arable enterprises. This is really important for us in order to avoid a single crop going in year after year, which affects our soil structure. It keeps fertility in the land, but it also means that our sheep can go into clean grazing. So we're constantly regenerating the land to make sure that the sheep are then going on to clean grazing that's been free for any parasites to reduce anthelmintic usage on the farm as well. So that's been a really key part of our system, and how my family have ran the farm for the last 52 years. So it's quite well established. Just kind of quick touch on the SRUC SAC consulting network. I work for SAC Consulting, but it is part of the wider SRUC network. That consults, just in summary, it's we've got about 1,200 staff across the whole SRUC network. It encompasses 5 education campuses, which are focused in agriculture and land-based skills, as well as a vet university that's just opened up in Aberdeen, I think last year or 2 years ago, very newly established. We have 6 innovation centres, which encompass our research and knowledge capabilities. We've 7 farms, so we've got beef, sheep, pig, poultry, dairy, hill and mountain, and cropping, where we've got a lot of research, as well as commercial practices going on, and we have 25 consulting offices, of which we've got 120 regional consultants and specialists, which includes specialists in food and drink, rural business, livestock, and the environment. So quite a lot going on. It was a very quick intro. So I really wanted to kind of home in on what our challenges are from a Scottish perspective, but largely this will be from a kind of UK perspective as well. We're seeing a lot of kind of challenges that are kind of pushing where we need to go in terms of improving resilience in our farming systems, especially for livestock. We've seen a lot of changing weather patterns, especially over the last kind of last 10 years. So predominantly larger extremes, warmer springs, summers, drought, increased flooding, and quite a lot of storms. They put a lot of pressure on. January 2026 saw the wettest January on record for Northern Ireland, Southwest and South England, and the east of Scotland. The west of Scotland were strangely the only ones that got away without that. And 2025 saw the UK's hottest, driest spring, and also the hottest summer on record, which has caused a lot of challenges across the way. We've seen the wettest winter on record in 2015-16, and in 2012 we had the wettest summer in 100 years. These have all put pressure on our systems, which has meant that we've seen reduced feed availability. So that spring drought, especially last year, reduced forage availability. I'm getting a lot of phone calls from clients at the moment that are running out of forage, which really highlights why resilience in our systems is crucial. And we're seeing, we're working with a lot of clients to improve that. We're also seeing issues with water scarcity, which in Scotland I didn't think I'd ever say, but it's definitely a theme. And May and I had a really good meeting with a group of farmers that we've brought together for the Land Use for Net Zero project, and it was interestingly a really big theme that came out there. We've also seen a lot of kind of failed crops or poor yields, which has further limited winter supplies. That's also meant that we've seen reduced feed quality. So this year, our in terms of analysis, our silage quality has been reduced. So we've seen lower energy. Protein has actually been all right, but we've seen a higher dry matter, and that's caused some challenges, especially as we're approaching lambing and calving, and we're kind of in the thick of it in the UK currently, especially for Scotland, where we've got a lot of later lambing flocks. Protein sustainability is a challenge. Yeah, I'll fly through. Protein sustainability is a challenge. So we're 46% of animal feed is imported into the UK at the moment. And we're also seeing emerging disease challenges, particularly parasites. So different parasites such as Haemonchus coming in sheep. And also our midge-seasons changed, which has meant that we're seeing different patterns with diseases like Schmallenberg, and we're seeing blue tongue creeping in there as well. So adaptions, we're seeing a lot of adaptions in the feed, so increased sward diversities, so multi-species swards with herbs, legumes and grasses, improved root depth and structure, increased drought resilience and improved drainage, which is very similar to what Lauren and Duncan have just talked about. Adapted grazing practices, so rotational, mob, strip grazing and deferred grazing over winter, trying to build bulk, build dry matter. We're definitely seeing a lot of clients adapting practices. Alternative croppings coming in specifically for proteins, with protein being one of the biggest challenges. So beans, peas, arable silages, trying to improve our protein in our silages because that can reduce our reliance on bought-in proteins, and also reduce reliance on bought-in fertilizers, which is really important. Integration of livestock and arable, so winter sown cereals, sheep, cover cropping. So just trying to kind of graze winter sown cereals, trying to like look at integrating livestock into arable practices as well, to improve and reduce inputs into arable systems. And livestock and selection and genetics, selecting those animals that best stand our challenges as a nation. So I think selection and genetics is a massive part and definitely something that research has been looking at. So very, very quickly, this is just some of the stuff that's going on with research. This is an article here in our latest Perspectives magazine, which highlights our Green Shed project. I know a shed's not typically around regen practices, but the Green Shed looks at recycling animal waste into electricity and heat, and that is powering the shed and also providing heat for a hydroponic greenhouse where we're growing pak choi and lettuce. So far, we've got a lot of soil research going on. This is my lovely colleague Poppy, who's currently doing a PhD in soil carbon stores and our options for livestock there as well. This is the PAC chambers, or portable accumulation chambers, which are looking at individual methane measurements of sheep. And we've got a big breeding project there. And there's a lot of soil research going on as well. So yeah, quite a wide spread of stuff going on. We've got a wide amount of knowledge and stuff in consultancy that we're applying every day as well, to try and kind of introduce regen practices. And, you know, some businesses will badge themselves as regen, but we're seeing that a lot of those principles are coming into many different businesses in order to build resilience, build performance and improve sustainability so we can keep farming for the future. And that was me as quick as possible.
Brilliant. Lorna, thank you very much. That was so interesting. Particularly on reducing reliance on fertilizers and meds as well. So perhaps we can talk a bit more about that at the end. And last but not least, Simon, I will hand over to you. Do you want me to put the slides?
Yeah, look, I just sent you a couple of photos. Sorry, I haven't got a full prepped presentation as such. What I'd like to do is I'll just outline my role in Australian agriculture, and then my personal journey with the I guess transition from conventional farming through to sort of a more regen based agriculture. We're exploring, the options of not using any chemical fertilizers, any chemicals, without impacting the resilience or the health of our sheep. The slide that's up at the moment is we've settled on a breed of sheep. I guess my specialty or my passion has always been around the farming of sheep. This is a breed called the Australian White that was developed in New South Wales in Oberon. They are a shedding breed, so effectively they're like a little cow. The beauty of sheep, from my perspective, is I guess they're kind of easy to handle from a safety perspective, but also that they're very efficient converters of dry matter into into an edible product. And so myself and my wife Rebecca are both rural veterinarians. We've specialised in repro. So my wife has in the past done a lot of repro with horse embryo transfer. I've always sort of specialised in sheep embryo transfer and laparoscopic AI. We've always we've had an export accredited centre. We export frozen embryos and semen all around the globe. I have done a lot of work in Scotland and New Zealand, so I'm obviously familiar with a lot of different agricultural systems. Our property here is about 250 hectares. We run a couple of other neighbours' blocks as well, but our focus on our blocks is around establishing new sort of like mixed pasture species. We have a very dry summer, a hot dry summer here, so we generally don't get any summer rain at all. If we do, it's not we don't end up with any food. It actually just decreases the quality of our dry matter. So some of our biggest challenges here are around what we call a summer feed gap. So we try and sort of constantly seeking ways that we can address that in a regenerative manner. We haven't had access to a lot of, there's just not a lot of people that seem to be successfully I guess managing that feed gap at the moment. So open to all sorts of anything that people can offer. We are running about 450 head of these Australian white shedding ewes and producing between 450 and 500 lambs a year. We are trying to develop a paddock plate type of market, so we'd rather sell to people that appreciate the quality of the produce that we are that we're farming. And I guess that's that's a very brief overview. Our challenges here are probably the local abattoirs, trying to find abattoirs that will do custom kills, and then distribution of our product through the system is very challenging in Western Australia. We're sort of down to probably 3 or 4 main abattoirs, and it's a lot of them now have their own feedlots, and they don't like to do small batch custom kill. So it'd be really good to see that addressed at a government level. We don't appear to be getting a lot of help there. So our soil types here, like a sort of compared to a lot of the world, very limited. So we only have about between 50 and 100 mil of what could be loosely called topsoil. So that's another one of our challenges. And yeah, I guess that's about it, really. I have I guess a lot of specialist knowledge in the genetics and the movement of genetics and all the rest of it. And I have done my best to choose an animal that best suits our environment. We don't do any cropping as such, apart from using a disc seeder to try and add new species of pasture. We're currently running, we sort of set up trial plots, and I'm just putting out, just trying different varieties of pasture and trying to work out what's going to take and what's going to not, and what sort of volume and quality of feed they're going to produce, and the cost of establishing those new pasture species, all of which is very challenging without the use of chemicals. So yeah, I reckon what I'll do is if there's any questions later on, I will do my best to address, and other than that, just look forward to seeing what everyone else is doing and how we can further our knowledge in this field.
Brilliant. Simon, thank you. No, that was really, really fascinating, and yeah, just amazing to hear how, even though farming completely different continents, that there's challenges you're all facing around weather changes, your different soil types, selling to markets and finding those places that can recognize the value of your product and the way it's produced has been something that's come up as well. And also, I think what's been nice is who you're farming with, farming with your families, that kind of intergenerational aspect seems to be a really important part as well. So if there's any questions, please do pop them in the chat. We have one for Lorna and Duncan to get started with, and then we can carry on from there. So Duncan, you briefly mentioned using EOV from the Savory Institute. Can you tell us more about your experience of using this approach?
Well, it's a bit of a new one. We'd sort of been looking, from afar sort of thing, because in the deer context, it's obviously more geared towards sheep and cattle, and marketing of lamb and beef. So we sort of hadn't really, sort of watched from afar. It seemed a bit expensive, and so we had, without like a road to market to actually get a return on that investment from going down that road, we'd sort of been a bit hesitant to dip our toes in, but just with we got an opportunity for some funding on this project that we're working on through our meat company. Getting to do it through that with a few other like-minded farms at the same time is going to be quite huge for us. We're going to learn a lot. We've just got the guy coming in a week or 10 days time to do our second year evaluation. So we've done our baseline monitoring, and quite interesting actually, just going around when we did our first year, what they sort of look at and how they score things. That's probably was quite eye-opening, just to sort of understand how to in our context, what we can start doing to start moving the dial on some of those scores, and then probably actually some of the things that were missing, some of the things we were doing that weren't really caught by it, and then what's the third thing? Right out of my head.
Just opportunity.
Just the opportunities that can create. So we've already we talk quite closely to the Force of Nature guys in the States, and they're like really into it, so they really understand the program. So they're already, before we've even started seeing some numbers back for our second year, we can really have some real good conversations about our data and what we're finding already. Actually, that's what it was, our third thing. So one of the things was actually quite good, where I'm always digging holes and taking a few bricks readings and things like that, but it was actually quite eye-opening to actually set aside a day to go around the heap of paddocks on our farm and going paddock to paddock. It actually really I saw things through a different lens. And actually one of the big things that we're sort of working on is our shallow compaction, which with little wee deer trotters, they're can cause a bit of shallow compaction. So I thought we were managing it quite well, but it actually highlighted, just by spending the day with someone independent going around digging holes and doing that evaluation, I was like, actually, hang on, we've actually got a bit more of an issue here than what we thought, and we're going to have to really focus in on what we can change to improve that. So that was actually, huge value just on its own. So that was quite eye-opening. So often it takes someone coming from outside to walk around your farm to actually see it through a different light, which is real helpful. So really excited about that scheme and where it takes us.
It was all really positive, though. It wasn't confrontational
Yeah.
to have someone say, actually, these are your work on areas. It was really enthusing, to be fair, because we're quite excited to go further with their observations.
Yeah. And obviously amazing looking at some of the other data from some of the other farms, that a lot of similar characteristics, but a lot of things are quite different too. So although some of us are in similar areas doing similar things, it's almost like chalk and cheese sometimes. So that was really interesting as well. Like I've always sort of stayed away from comparing ourselves to others, because we really got like our like comparison is the thief of joy. So I'd rather compare ourselves to what we did last year, and we make progress that way rather than comparing ourselves to someone else down the road or in a different district. So that's sort of a big focus for us, really.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And Duncan, I've just noticed your t-shirt as well, which which is brilliant. You can put a link in the chat to get your own. Excellent. No, thank you. And actually a question for all of you, I'd love to hear just quickly from Mark in the chat, is what has been the increase in productivity you've managed to achieve, and what has been the main drivers? Lorna, you might be able to touch on feed, and Simon, Lorna and Duncan from your own experience on the farm. Lorna, perhaps we could start with you.
So I think from a feed point of view, I'll kind of keep the nutritionist hat on, but I can kind of maybe do it from farm experience as well. Working quite a lot to improve kind of forage quality, improve that kind of protein energy that we're getting from our forage, as much as being in like essential in terms of increasing productivity from grazing alone. We're seeing kind of increased weight gains, increased carcass weights across the board, without the need for bought-in resources, which is improving our sustainability as well. From a kind of whole farm point of view, that's allowed us kind of hopefully in the short term, and with a bit of change of cropping, which we are looking at and discussing already, by looking at maybe adding beans into our rotation to try and get a legume into that rotation, which I think is the one thing we're missing at the moment. Our key aim as a business to actually have lorries going out of the farm road and not lorries coming in. Lorries coming in are costing us money, reducing our sustainability. If we can have lorries coming out, that's product going out. So that's our kind of main aim.
That's fantastic. For us, it's really hard to disentangle what the gains have been from the move into our more regenerative system and all the other components that we've focused on, like our genetics as well. But my big sort of saying, I suppose, is genetics are only as good as your ability to feed to the potential of those genetics. And so our weaning weights have increased markedly, our growth rates across the seasons, and our overall end carcass weight has lifted, but especially in those challenging shoulders of the season. So winter growth rates have always been a challenge for us. We've got a long, cold winter. We largely rely on self-grown feed. We don't really import unless things are going really off the wall. So being able to create quality supplement to be able to be resilient for the dry months where we our dry coincides often with our peak lactation of our hinds, and so making sure that we have good protein, good energy to drive that lactation, because it's the most efficient time to put weight on fawns. That's been huge. So
genetics of hinds, so you've got a real good tough hind that if things are going really well, she'll do well, but when the going gets tough, yeah, we're breeding a hind that can really, even on a bit of a view, sometimes she can still milk really well and feed a really good fawn, and then also still get pregnant herself again. So we don't have, really holding on to her conditions, the big ones. So
yeah, I think for us as well, we really think about the environmental outcomes. So a faster finished animal is going to have fewer emissions and just be generally more sustainably produced. So the faster that we can reach our final end carcass weights, the more efficient our system, because we have to have those yearling deer out the gate ready for the next round of breeding coming through. So our key times to influence that are, as I say, lactation, and then you'll have to excuse the flip of the dates for the hemispheres, but for us to get to our 1st of June, our beginning of winter weight, as high as we possibly can, then it means that any weight gains over winter are a positive, but we're not chasing having to pack as much weight on over winter, and then we get compensatory growth coming away again in the spring. One of the biggest things that as a vet I've been really pleased is our ability to focus on canopy cover and grazing residuals, and the height of the different species and the makeup of the species that we're grazing means that our reliance on anthelmintic drenches has been much less. But what I would say is just the increased need to monitor those things, not to take those for granted. It's very tempting as a regenerative farmer come vet to presume that the regenerative system is better, but monitoring is huge to make sure that we're not just kidding ourselves on that one. But deer thrive on diversity for trace elements. Some of the production benefits have been what we've not needed to do in terms of costs, as much as our benefits of growing animals faster on self-grown feeds. So
I guess one of the comparison with other deer farmers, especially on the velvet side and venison finishing systems, there's a lot of other deer farmers that are quite reliant on imported feeds and whatnot, and particularly on the velvet side, people really believe supplements are the way to go, but we sort of think our genetics that we've got are really quite good, and as long as we make sure they're fully fed on a really good quality feed grown here, they'll reach their potential without needing to plug those inputs in. And the velvet industry here is taking a bit of a dive money-wise the last couple of seasons. So I think that's where our systems become really resilient, because I think other operators are stuck on having to bring in this feed and then not having the money coming out the other end to help pay for it. Whereas we're just, it's just another year on homegrown feed, which is the cheapest you can get. So
just to touch on what Lorna said before, legume dominant has been a massive thing for us. If we can keep our systems legume dominant, it's positive for growth and for animal health.
Thank you.
Ryegrass is one of the worst feeds around. It's
issue here too. Lorna and Duncan, thank you. And I mean, especially feels very topical as well that this comes back to the issue. Well, comes back to the benefits of reducing your reliance on inputs. I don't know what it's like in your part of the world, but it's been a big discussion here with the war and rising fuel costs and price of fertilizers, and food security. So I think the more we can kind of build that self-reliance and resilience, the better. We've got 2 more questions in the chat. Simon, should we start with you? How did your neighbours react to challenges you have enacted? And I guess how have you managed that? And then we can throw that over to you guys quick. And then after that, question from Fabia, again for Simon, mentioned the issue about the scarcity of local abattoirs and availability of custom kill. It's a big issue in the UK. Do others have any issues with this, and how is it being challenged in Australia and New Zealand too? So let's start with the quick question about how have your neighbours reacted to becoming regenerative, and then we'll move on to the abattoirs.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, our neighbours here, we're sort of on the edge of proper farming country. So 3 of our 4 neighbours are, I guess, lifestyle blocks, and we're actually running our animals on them. So there's no sort of they're watching with half an eye, and they're excited about what we're doing, but they don't really understand it. We have 17,000 acres on one boundary, so that he's definitely a full conventional cropping farmer. I think he's so busy doing what he's doing, he's not even looking over the fence. So yeah, there's not a lot of neighbour interaction at this point. I'd love to eventually be able to have some sort of a demonstration type of site where we could really promote the advantages. As far as a measurable increase, we probably haven't seen an increase in production, but we've definitely seen a decrease in inputs, and probably just from a veterinary perspective, overall animal health, I think from reducing chemical exposure, we're definitely seeing the benefits from improved rumen health, especially taking glyphosate out of the system. So we're hoping just to continually build on that. Now, what was the other question, May?
And the last question.
Oh, the abattoirs. That's right. Sorry.
About abattoirs.
Yeah. So the abattoirs, I guess, yes, everyone that is in our situation is facing a similar challenge. The system is really geared towards, basically selling into these big feedlots, and then they effectively then utilise their big feedlots to control prices and just, put out their own product. I think the only way to really address that would be to get, and I don't like, the government here has obviously banned live shipping, which has impacted Western Australia, the West Australian sheep industry in particular. What I would love to see from our government is, I guess, an easing of restrictions, or I guess the regulations around, small micro abattoirs and the ability to supply direct to customers. But there doesn't appear to be a lot of interest in that. In that, which to me would seem to be a no-brainer. If you want to solve this problem, especially going forward, if we need to try and take out the middleman to sort of make meat more available at a more cost-effective price, because what we are seeing is obviously we're getting a lot of pushback from customers, not from our customers, but from I see in general people complaining about the price of meat, because obviously the price of our animals, because of what's happened in Western Australia and probably Australia wide, we've actually seen a decrease in the sheep flock numbers, and therefore supply demand issues have actually created a rise in price. So that's
thanks, Simon.
A bit of a quick.
So hard. I just want to keep the conversation going, but we've got a couple of minutes left. Lorna and Duncan. Lorna Shaw, with 30 seconds each, I guess. Lorna and Duncan, you might want to touch on abattoirs in New Zealand, what's being done there, and then Lorna, perhaps you could talk about how people react to more regenerative kind of management styles. In 30 seconds, that's your challenge.
Very, very similar to Australian governments. They seem to just be hell-bent on not encouraging direct, farm to plate sort of stuff. Bloody hard. There is a lot of work being done though on like micro abattoirs and actually mobile abattoirs, so abattoirs that can kill on farm and then be able to sell the meat. So there is some stuff happening, but the government are making it very hard to make that happen. There's not a lot of will there by the government to allow it, and then like all the home kill laws and stuff that could be relaxed would make a huge difference. But yeah, the will isn't there by the government in a nutshell, which sucks.
Yeah, similar story here. And Lorna, any insights into I guess making this kind of knowledge more accessible?
Yeah, so I think from a consultancy point of view, for us, for making this knowledge more accessible, there is we are met with kind of cynics and stuff at some sites when you're talking about like badging kind of regen and these kind of principles. But we do find that a lot of businesses are actually starting to adapt and utilize some of these principles anyway without even the badge. So badging it as sustainable, badging it as increased like climate resilient, and like looking at how we can kind of make businesses sustainable and profitable for the future. If we're badging it at that and introducing those principles, we're finding that uptake's a lot easier. So sometimes it's about kind of discussing these principles and adapting them and just discussing it in a different way to make it more like easier to swallow for farmers that are resistant to change. But in the end of the day, it's about keeping it productive, keeping it profitable, and keeping a farm sustainable. Because if we don't adapt to challenges and change, we're not going to have a business there for the future.
A good message to end on, I think. Exactly, all about people, the business, the families running the farm, all the operations, and of course environment as well. So thank you all so much, and to our brilliant speakers. I have absolutely loved listening to you and feel very inspired. So yeah, please do keep in touch, and thank you to David and Tibby and Elise for helping to organise this webinar as well. Hopefully everyone has enjoyed it and come away with something that they've learned. So please do sign up to the newsletters. We'll continuing to do more of these. If you have any ideas for new sessions or kind of themes that you want to hear other farmers around the world talk about, or any other countries, we can try and make that happen. So please do keep in touch and have a good rest of your evenings and or days. Thank you all.
Thanks, May. Thanks all.
Bye.
Thank you.